Welcome back to the Wacky Wonderful Wiseworks podcast. All you guys, gals, geeks, and goofballs. 360 episodes we have.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't 360 something days in a year?
365,
360. We are 5 episodes away from having an episode for every day of the year.
Yeah.
Every
I
day
wouldn't recommend
of
the earlier episodes, though.
But we have them.
We
do have them.
You could watch them.
You can listen to a podcast every day of the year. Or
if you didn't want to listen to the earlier episodes, you could just go ahead and listen to, a midnight special episode.
Well, the midnight special counts as numbers.
Is it really?
Yes, it does.
We
were okay.
Midnight.
So,
you're right.
You can listen to a pre-show on the Patreon.
Yes.
Or you can
those
listen
don't
to
count.
Monday all weekend.
Or Monday all weekend.
Or a movie
kinda
commentary.
like or anything on the studio
Gosh,
channel.
we've got so much content and options for you guys.
Yeah.
Right. Freaking, I was dying while editing last week when you said no Oppenheimers. Freaking, I was dying a second time while editing because I basically said it wasn't actually last week. It was 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. I don't know how long ago it was. Whenever you were, we were talking about the Oscars rules. Okay.
Yeah.
And basically we were saying that Oppenheimer doesn't qualify. And I was like, they don't have any options to even qualify. And you said no Oppenheimers. That hit my funny bone.
That's funny that it got you.
It got me twice. It got me in the editing.
Sometimes
this happens to me quite often where I'm editing a reel and it's the dumb stuff I say, and I realize how dumb it was that I said it, and I just start laughing at the dumbness of it, and it's so funny.
I love because I do the same thing. It's the especially if it's a joke that I'm laughing at that I told in the podcast or something, I'll find myself laughing with me about the joke that I told.
Yeah.
And so it's just two of me laughing.
You laughing.
Stupid I said.
I'll say this. Okay, so Bert Kreischer has done, he's become famous for laughing at himself. All right.
Yeah.
And he said many times that he loves listening to his podcasts because he loves listening to himself. And he just will giggle at himself. He said he loves it, and everyone traditionally hates it. But even watching his movie, The Machine, he said that he's so excited to watch it because he's in the audience, mouthing the words that he knows is happening.
They couldn't put him. They couldn't put him on the row of his premiere. They had to put him in the back because he was spoiling it.
He was affecting the audience's reaction.
It would be probably more fun to watch the movie with Bert.
Yes,
than anything else.
100%.
Yeah.
Speaking of The Machine,
how much fun he's having.
We've all seen The Machine, right?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So, what did you guys think? Did you enjoy it? Was it funny? How did you react?
It was good, but I would not say it was as good as I thought it would be. But it's still good. It's still
there
good.
were a lot of solid funny moments, and then I think some of the connecting tissue of the movie was not as great with some of the dialogue, I guess, and premises to move us from one point to another. But I think a lot of the big humor landed, and the premise is simple. It's Russian mob stuff, but
I would put it up against any
Seth Rogen
comedian-based movie from the 90s.
Yeah, the 90s.
No, well, I'm saying during the 90s there was a boom for this, stand-up comedian making the movie. There was a lot of John Candy stuff. There was a lot of Eddie Murphy movies. There was a lot of.
I think this fits more into the Seth Rogen vibe because it has violence in it, like Seth Rogen puts in his movies, over the top violence as well as sexual content, some nudity, things like that. I think this falls into the Seth Rogen vibe more than any other genre of comedy movies, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it probably fits into that vibe more than Coming to America, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
There's a lot of weed use. drug use, stuff like that, right?
But it was, it had an interesting premise to the movie of like the kind of person that he wants to be and doesn't want to be. And, you've got to have sort of those subplots to move the story forward. It can't all be jokes and stuff.
Yeah.
I think what I found the most interesting about the film, and for the people that just watch it aren't going to know about this, it's how connected to Bert's real life so many aspects of the movie are.
Yes.
Not only are we building off of a true event, but we're also building off of his real relationship with his family and his oldest daughter and his youngest daughter, and that vibe in his actual home. That so many plot points are based around true events or true relationships that are currently happening in his house. Like literally that whole situation with him getting drunk and his daughter driving him home and then getting in trouble and almost getting arrested. Like the real world version of that is his daughter get high at a friend's house and he found out about it and freaked out and had to go and spend time in therapy because he was realizing that he was being a hypocrite because he is openly doing drugs and drinking in front of his kids constantly. And he gets upset at his daughter for trying weed with their friends, right? And so that's the true story behind like his oldest daughter's relationship that happened like a few months before they shot the movie. And so there's so much realism to this movie. And then like the jokes, how his real wife, Leanne, like cameos, and he just calls her a dumb B word or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of funny. It's very much Bert in the little cracks of the movie. You know what I mean? In the little crevices. But yeah, even the editing I noticed was a bit clunky, especially at the beginning. I
didn't think the editing was that bad as much as there was not a great soundtrack to accompany it. There was like the Russian music when they went to Russia, but the just dialogue scenes, there was not a good solid track behind it. So it felt almost empty with some of the scenes, especially between Bert and his wife, Leanne, where those conversations in the movie were quiet and I didn't catch the emotion, not because the actors weren't doing a good job. I think everybody acted great in this movie, but I think there was not a track behind it to kind of emphasize the emotions. So it felt kind of empty, if that makes sense.
And also like, I don't understand the Family Matters joke. I feel like that's been done so many times. How many times are we going to hear people doing their stupid Urkel impressions for the laugh, but we don't find that funny anymore?
For me, it's the other country references our TV shows in their accent, and pop culture funny. Bing bong,
and they're still on Family Matters.
Yeah, it's not funny anymore.
No,
the movie's rated R, and so they can kind of be a little bit extra with some of their jokes. So I told Wyatt it would have been funnier because it's clearly like a reference, an old reference, but it's just catching up to them now. And it's an old reference. It would have been funny and it would have aged better if they made a Cosby Show reference.
Cosby Show.
And Bert be like, "Ooh, that didn't age well."
Right. Yeah, that would have been so much better.
They're like that famous episode in the Bill Cosby Show, and he's like, "Can you please stop?" And she's trying to be emotional with him and touch his heart, and he's just like, no. And
that would be question.
Bill Cosby.
That would be great. Do you think because surely that crossed their mind, right?
Yeah.
Do you think they didn't do it because Cosby's alive and it would be considered defamation of some sort?
They're not. Well, you're not. I don't know. You don't have to reference necessarily.
He maintains his
Bill
innocence.
Cosby. Yeah. You don't even have to have Bert say no. Don't. She's like, there's this famous thing from the Cosby,
just go like, oh,
from the Cosby Show, and he could be like,
no,
stop, and that would be funny enough.
Yeah, that would have probably landed well, but the Family Matters. Honestly, I would have rather seen a Full House joke.
It's not even Family Matters. For me, it is the cliche of other country references our TV shows.
TV show, yeah.
You know,
that's tired.
It's tired. It is.
That was probably the weakest ongoing joke in the movie that I wish they wouldn't have done. Everything else, okay. Mark Hamill, how do you think he did as Bert's dad?
He did good as Bert's dad. I don't think. I'm not a fan of Mark Hamill as much anymore, but he did good as Bert's dad.
Yeah, he was fine.
I think towards the end, very clunky. He was much better of like a grumpy, kind of like constantly disappointed version of his dad.
Yeah.
The kind of like loving side, it just became a bit clunky and a bit forced and just felt awkward. Whereas like Bert's so silly and so like extreme with his emotions constantly. When he's screaming and angry, you really are convinced of it. And when he's like really emotional and heart touched, you're also convinced of it because he's always extreme, right? So like expressing the love from Bert's side, and look, I'm not saying that Bert is a better actor than Mark Hamill, but in this role, it translated a lot better. Some of the moving points, right?
I mean, let's be honest.
Bert is playing himself.
I never thought Mark Hamill was a great actor to begin with.
He's Luke Skywalker.
Okay, he's Luke Skywalker. Whatever. He had one. He had one really good acting role, and
that's not true.
Outside, he's not a movie star like Harrison Ford.
That's impossible.
No, he's not.
And his voice talent is incredible, and the characters that he's voiced over the years is.
Didn't he almost do a Joker laugh in the machine? Did you catch on that? I think it was when he was high. When he was high,
the way he laughs is Joker laugh to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are the things that he did, but acting, I've seen some other stuff where he's acted, especially in his older age. He's just not as good.
It's not as good. Yeah.
It's almost like he's acting as Mark Hamill.
What would you give this film a 1 out of 10?
For the jokes, there's a lot of originality in this, and there's a lot of great micro moments in this movie, like a lot of good micro moments that if you're a fan of Bert's, really deliver and make you laugh out loud. I'm putting it at a 7 for like comedy movies. Again, putting it up to other movies like The Interview or Pineapple Express or stuff like that. That's kind of what I put it up against. And I think it's definitely on the higher end of those type of movies, right?
Okay. I would say it was, for me, a 6 or 5.5.
Yeah, from what I saw of it, it was. Yeah, I would agree with Joe. It was up there with those other movies. It wasn't like anything super special.
I think it was special because it was Bert's movie.
But it was special because it's Bert's movie, and like it's the little references. You know, when he's saying, "Oh, I have a podcast with my big, huge, fat friend Tom," that kind of stuff. That made me laugh out loud.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just it wasn't like moments. A chuckle. I was like, "Ha!" That's funny because just the way that he delivers he's my big, stupid, big, fat ass friend Tom, you know, and it was amazing. He probably didn't say it exactly like that, but he delivers it with such a straight face that it's funny to people who follow that kind of stuff.
And the premise that was like, he weaved it into a real event that could take place, because they do at times get drunk on their podcast on Two Bears, and that was the premise for why he asked his daughter to come pick him up with her learner's permit and drive him home, right? He was on the podcast with Tom and got too drunk, right? But I think it was well executed for what it is. I think there's a few improvements that could have been made,
and the movie looked good. I didn't have a problem. Like, it had good production value.
Great production value.
I especially thought the scene in the like Russian forest with the townspeople, the way that they kind of shot it, and you see this little village with this big, huge Russian industrial building right behind it. That was fun. That image to me is just funny. That's Russia, you know.
Right. Yeah. Also, like the just the flashbacks between the younger version of himself and older version. I think that those went really well. And the element of adding to the actual machine story where he kind of had a crush on this girl, but then he kind of really upset her in the process. And then that's like a really good empty like part left out of the story. I wonder if there's truth to that. I don't think there probably is.
I mean, there could be.
There could be. That's not in the stand-up bit for it, but but just even the idea of adding like keeping that out of his stand-up bit because it's a bummer. You know what I mean? That's actually a good storytelling detail. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That adds depth to the character and the event of robbing the train. I think that's good. You know,
it's fun.
Let's go to our actually first topic, because that wasn't even our first topic, but that was a fun review of.
Hey, I would like to mention as we come into this Bikeriders topic, I got a text this morning from Joe saying, "Hey, I'd like you guys to. I actually want to read your wording. Let me pull it up here on my computer." Because your wording I thought was funny. You said take a moment to read this article to get a granular with the director's perspective. I liked that. You said to get a granular.
It's like a dad thing.
I was like, I don't know if that was a typo, but yeah, I'm trying to get a granular, you know.
I was on the toilet. I was having my morning
granulars.
And I meant to write to get familiar.
I like granular. I don't know why. But I really like that, to get granular with it. I was like, that sounds like an old school word. Joe's using some interesting verbiage here.
That wasn't me.
And so
that wasn't me.
But no, and then I proceeded to read the longest article I've ever read in my entire life.
Right. I knew it was long.
He's like, it's cool. Get granular with it. And I was like, all right.
Get granular with it.
I'm like, this is not granular. This is the whole beach. This is a sandcastle, my man.
All right. The Bikeriders.
Yeah.
Directed. All right. By Jeff Nichols.
Yes.
So it is a new movie coming out. We did a reaction to it, Wyatt and I. Got some pretty good reception on the trailer, which means like there's some spice behind this movie. There's definitely going to be a fan base around this movie, and it's not that we're going to tap into that, but I want to make sure we talk about things that people care about. And this seems to be like a movie people are going to care about. Beef, we have a lot to get into with this, and I don't want to spend forever on it. But just right off the bat, do you guys think this is because it's biker culture and we don't have a lot of movies about that? Or do you think it's because it is actors? Austin Butler and,
Tom Hardy.
Why do you think it is that people's going to be
I think it's a little bit of both. I think there is an aspect of, even like I went and watched your guys' reaction video because I was not part of it, but I noticed in the comments it was a lot of it. There was definitely a group of individuals that were unique to watching that reaction because they were interested in that. You could tell from the comments, and there is kind of this group that this is touching on that we've not had a lot of movies about. We've had a few, but not a lot. And it is interesting. So
I'll say there was one dude that left like the emoji with the curse words, the red face, and then angry face, and said, "Stop calling them gangs, they're clubs." And I responded with, biker clubs are gangs.
Yeah, they're gangs.
Obviously, this guy is
not
in
clubs. Yeah, a club is people who get together maybe twice a month. And we talk about nerd stuff, or you talk about books,
or you play chess.
You play chess, or
those are clubs. Or you do fencing club.
You do weird freaking ceremonies.
Hobbyists. Those are hobbies, right?
You put on robes.
Things like gangs, things like clans, things like cults. No, that's what this when you're dressing up specifically to get, to go out and do some damage, or maybe to do some damage in private, that's a cult.
Look,
To do damage to a specific group of people, that's a clan. To do damage to everybody out in public, that is a gang.
look, I'm not trying to look. I noticed this in the writing, so I'm rewatching The Mentalist right now, and there is an episode with a biker gang, and they even wrote it in there. All the cops are referring to it as the gang, but when they're talking about themselves, they say the club. So this is a multi-generational argument that I don't necessarily think we're going to solve, but why it's right. Everybody who's not in the gang knows it's a gang. And everybody inside doesn't want to necessarily be referred to as a gang because we're a club, and you're not fooling anybody. We know you do illegal stuff.
All right. What's the difference between a club and a gang? Let's define.
I just said.
Look, a club for bikers is a gang in denial. It's a gang. That's what it is.
It's not in denial. It's a gang. It's the wording is specific. We're not going to call ourselves a gang. That way we don't get associated with the unsavory parts of what gangs do, even though they do those unsavory things.
Yeah.
So it's also, not a club.
There's a lot of white
clubs are fun.
There's a lot of white supremacists in biker gangs.
Mm-hmm.
There are black biker gangs as well, but most biker gangs traditionally have a lot of white supremacists in them, and they don't like to be referred to.
Don't generalize. Don't generalize. I'm
telling you what my dad experienced. My dad has experienced back in the day, like the height of Hell's Angels and all them, right?
Oh, are you worried about generalizing the biker gangs, Josh?
No, I'm just saying it has been a trend where on our videos, Joseph generalizes like on Elvis, and you stir up an audience.
Not on the podcast. Look,
you're going to get a bunch of dudes in the comments be like, man, there's black biker clubs. What are you talking about?
There are. I remember when I lived in Colombia, there was a huge black biker club that was going to Charleston because it's the biggest national biker club reunion or like festival or something. Hundreds of thousands of people were driving through Colombia, like black bikers, riding through Colombia to get to Charleston. It was incredible to see. So many black bikers. So many of them came into where I worked at Truck Supply and like got a part or knew somebody there. It was super cool. I liked it. It was cool. But the section of this article, I think it's mostly we read the majority of it to get to know the perspective of what's going on here. But to give you a real quick synopsis of the inspiration behind it, it's based on this kind of photo book from Danny. How did you say his last name? Leon. Danny Leon is the original 1967, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's called The Bikers. And he basically went out and took pictures and spent a lot of time and did a lot of interviews with actual biker gangs. Like, so this clubs. Right here, or biker clubs, whatever. So this picture right here is actually like they recreated it with Austin Butler. Right. Well, did I not include it? I didn't include it. I'm sorry. There's one with Austin Butler that's exactly like this. All right.
Okay.
Because they're trying to recreate it. But yeah, so that's what this movie's based on, and it's its own unique script. It's not based on a specific person necessarily, but it is creating a narrative that's inspired by biker culture, essentially.
Well, what I thought was interesting that the director was talking about is the idea for the story of doing a love triangle that's not like a love triangle.
Mm-hmm.
It's two. You find this interesting person, right? This person with potential, and both people see the potential, and they both want to kind of make him into the type of person they believe he could be. And that's what Tom Hardy's doing. That's what Jodie Comer is doing. And they
with
both
Austin Butler
with
in the
Austin
middle.
Butler as the person in the middle. And I like that idea of we both want to, I don't think necessarily in a negative way, make this person who he could be, but we both want things for him, and that's going to influence him, and what's his decision going to be. I think that's really interesting and fun.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm not saying directors don't get deep with their stories, but I like seeing this article, how it's so extensive, gives so many thoughts from the director to see, like, he's really put a lot of thought and effort behind his intention with the script. Like, this section right here where he kind of like talks about how he doesn't want to glamorize biker culture, but has to acknowledge that there is a romantic attraction that
there's some
most
beauty in it.
people have to biker culture. And it's really cool how he's like trying to balance what it is and how it's viewed, you know? So literally what it is, the good and the bad, how it's viewed, the good and the bad, you know what I mean? And so there's like a lot of intention behind this director's, it seems like he really cares about the story. And I believe this is the same director who did like Killing Them Softly, right? So he's done some higher end stories. He's not done like, I don't think, a huge box office hit.
Wait, what was Killing Them Softly?
Brad Pitt.
And
let me look him up real quick to make sure I'm not getting that incorrect. Let's see.
I don't know. Did I watch this?
I don't think I've ever seen.
Well, let's see what else he's done that you
maybe I don't think I have seen
recognize.
Killing Them Softly.
Okay, so Jeff Nichols. So, Mud. Maybe I'm mistaken.
Oh,
Did
Mud.
He do Killing Them Softly?
Mud.
Yeah, with
Conahey.
Yes.
Did I make up that he did Killing Them Softly? He did Mud. For sure.
Okay.
It was directed by Andrew Dominic.
Is that Killing Them Softly?
Killing Them Softly was.
What else did he do? Is something that he's coming out with that we've been talking about? Is that why I'm thinking of it?
Don't think so.
No, well, Jeff Nichols, he did Mud. And so he's done a few good movies, but not like big hits. You know what I mean? He did something called The Midnight Special.
Nice. Familiar with, that.
Right. So I think overall, this movie looks very intentional. And I think it's going to be a really good emotional journey and extreme drama heavy movie. And because there's a love story and there's a freedom story, I guess, in some ways.
And it's interesting, I think, for a lot of people, because the rebellious nature of the biker clubs, the biker gangs, it surrounds these slow Midwestern towns.
Yeah.
Where this idea that, there's this need to be rebellious, and yet, everybody's trying to kind of live slowly. Everybody's just trying to and you drive through Pennsylvania or Ohio, and you see these kind of older style neighborhoods and houses, and you try to imagine, those free spirit kind of biker gangs rolling through. That's attractive to the young people growing up in there.
Ever watch The Fighter with Mark Wahlberg and Christian Bale?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Wild movie.
That was
so good.
A movie that encapsulated what you just said very good in a fighter type movie.
Yeah. I think this one will kind of do the same thing.
Yeah, I think it will too. I think it's going to, especially, look, you put Austin Butler and Tom Hardy. That's a great cast because you're going to get a lot of people watching it because of them too. But you make them the bikers and not a couple of rougher looking dudes. I mean,
and
everyone's going to want to be a biker after this movie.
You're in this domestic setting where your arguments and your fights aren't happening in like the high rise hotels in New York and penthouses and old New England architecture. They're happening in, houses with carpet and vinyl walls and wooden tables and old light fixtures.
Pool tables at the bar.
It's super domestic and
cornfields, as we see in the background here.
It's middle America,
Yeah, they the biker gangs like that small bar. I mean, our parents live out kind of in the middle of nowhere, and I remember when we were in high school, there was a specific bike gang. I don't want to mention them, but
why
they went
Say
to
it.
like
Hell's Angels.
A bar literally like right down the road from where our parents are. That's like a 1-room, like not even big at all.
Yeah,
it was the place that they could have hundreds of motorcycles be in the parking lot, and they could just hang out and do their thing
right down the road. And our mom was like, Joshua, stay at your friends. Don't try to drive on the road right now. Stay there. And that's that. Okay, now Hell's Angels are not what they used to be. All right, I think most biker gangs right now and clubs are not what they used to be. All right, in the 60s to 80s, they ruled the roads.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like if a gang rolled through, they just rolled through. Like freaking, I remember my dad has a very fun story when he was a younger boy, when the Hells Angels had probably thousands of people that just rode with him all everywhere. You know what I mean? And they drove by his house one time, and he said it was like 30 minutes of thousands of motorcycles just driving across the road out in front of their house. And he just watched all the roughest dudes in America just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wild, dude. And I think
that. Can you do it one more time for me? What was that? Oh, yeah, I got that
time. Or how would a Harley sound?
That's not bad. I liked the first one though.
Yeah.
A little over here motorboating.
Look, I think this is going to be a fun, very enjoyable movie that everyone should support to give Jeff his flowers, I guess. You know what I mean? Get his name more popular, see more of his movies than you might have already. But yeah, that's all the thoughts I have on Bikeriders. I think it's going to be fun. I'm anticipating it. It's good. It looks like a really good time.
I need to tell you guys. Did you see my new bike I got? Yeah,
yeah, you showed it to me.
Oh yeah.
Why?
Yeah, is that it? Luke was commenting on it, saying it was pretty cool.
I'm kidding. I'm trying to act like I've got a cool.
Oh, you should have said, "Did you guys see my hog or my chopper?"
I thought you were talking about your bike. The one that you exercise on.
I was.
That's what he was talking about.
Cool. After we talk about a bike gang, Luke's into the motorcycle.
Yeah, Luke has a motorcycle.
Maybe. I don't know.
He's got a motorcycle.
Really
what kind of motorcycle? Is it a crotch rocket?
No.
It's a Harley?
It's nothing. It's nothing big, but it's not small either.
Cool.
Is it? It's not. I don't know anything about bikes. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but isn't Yamaha a big thing in this area?
Yeah,
they've got a big warehouse or.
Yeah, my uncle works. My uncle works there over in Noonan.
Yamaha
You've seen that, right?
Live, so.
Driving past the Yamaha place in Noonan.
Yeah. And I have some people that I'm friends with that work there from my church.
Yeah,
church.
But, something they were telling me, it's something kind of weird with that, where Yamaha's owned by a Japanese or Asian company, so technically it's not American soil, that company. Is that true? That warehouse or something?
I have
on
no
property,
idea.
It's not technically considered American soil or something, which is
but
really
we can
weird.
take it back. All we have to do is burn the building and say, you're not allowed to have this. America can do whatever the crap we want.
No, I think it's like America says, this is yours because we get business out of it and it builds our town and our community and it brings jobs here and stuff. So I think it's almost like they've made a deal for them to put what's the word I'm looking for?
Warehouse
stuff. Not a warehouse.
Manufacturing plant.
Yeah, plant. That's what I'm thinking of. Put a plant right there where they're building stuff.
All right, look. Thank you, Shelby, for being a Patreon supporter.
Thank you, Shelby.
Look, she gets all kinds of cool stuff, early podcasts, like almost a week early. She gets an exclusive podcast, the pre-show every single week, and much more. Our archive for the Midnight Special video versions that we are talking about at the beginning of this podcast. If you like the Midnight Special and you never saw the video versions, you can go to our Patreon and take a look at that archive. Now, all of that to say, Patreon's also how we just support ourselves, how you guys can support all the content that we make. 360 episodes of the flagship Wiseworks podcast, right? So we do a lot of content. We do every single week. We have something new for you all the time. So we would really appreciate if you would consider supporting us. It doesn't have to be a lot. It could be $4 a month, right?
Yeah.
So just go over to Patreon, check out the tiers, see what best tier fits your content needs, and we really appreciate it. Links down in the description. We'd love to see you over there. Thank you, Shelby, for being a Patreon supporter. Before I get to the next topic, I wanted to show you guys something.
Ooh.
Apparently, have you ever wondered, like, what does the Obamas keep busy with now that they're not in the
What's your
presidency?
fascination with Barack these days? You be on that Barack train.
No, I'm not. I just came across this and I thought it was interesting. It's right inside what we do, right?
Okay.
Higher Ground Productions.
This is what they do?
Back in 2018, they founded this production company.
It's over, Anakin.
And basically what they do is they're a production company that has a contract with Netflix. So all their stuff comes out on Netflix, but they also release their own like podcast with Michelle and somebody else, and then Obama and somebody else. So I think Obama's podcast is called Renegade, and I think he does it with another popular personality. But yeah, so these are the podcasts right here. The Michelle Obama podcast, and then you got Renegades, Born in the USA. That's as American as it gets.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they have their own podcast, like mini podcast network for both of them. And then they also put shows out on Netflix. And I wanted to show you, because they do the traditional thing, kind of like we want, more Black entertainment, that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? It's not surprising. But they also funded this guy, Adam, whatever his name is. Adam Ruins Everything.
Adam Conover.
Yeah, so the G word with Adam Conover. So it's basically a documentary where he talks about how government affects your lives, good and bad. And he basically interviews tons of people and basically is getting the skinny on what government is like today. You know what I mean? So I don't know how leftist it is, but it did interest me when I saw the trailer. And there is some quality content that they're actually funding through their production company. Here's one.
Interesting.
Worth. Who is that? I forget his name.
Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton. Yes, I don't know why I was forgetting his name.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, Mr. Barack isn't the president anymore, so he's got to have something to do with spare time. Do a podcast and do some stuff.
I mean, look, they did like a little reality show. It says "Working: What We Do All Day" with Barack Obama and Michelle. I think that's on Netflix.
Interesting.
Yeah, they have like a Netflix deal.
Into their into like production stuff.
Right. So these are their podcasts. This is their network. She does 2 podcasts.
Interesting.
Michelle.
I mean, we did for a while.
That's true.
I mean, we kind of still do with the Monday on the Weekend.
That's true. So yeah, I just thought that would be interesting to tell you guys because, I do sometimes wonder what these popular personalities do, especially ones that were president, and what they do after they're not president no more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What are your thoughts on all this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have any thoughts about why they
it makes sense. I mean,
it makes
if you're going to do a podcast and it's really popular to get your stuff out there right now, do a podcast, and especially because you're the president, people are going to watch it, or you're the president's wife. You have your own company that's doing that, so you're making the money and you're not giving it to anybody else.
Yeah,
true.
They're
getting that Netflix money.
You're finding options
But
to
they're
fund.
directing and producing all their own content and then selling it to Netflix in that regard. So
Yeah.
Netflix is not producing it for them. They're doing it themselves.
Right. But that's how like most documentaries on Netflix work as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just thought it was interesting. I thought I would document it here on the podcast just to be like, hey, they got a production company. So if you wonder what the Obamas are up to, I'm sure they do a lot of stuff, but they're also making podcasts, TV, and movies as well. It seems like that's why do so many people get into fields that they don't have, like they don't have experience making movies.
Yeah, but they have experience being personalities and being on TV.
They have experience pushing social messages. And that's like what TVs and movies do a lot these days. Just push their messages. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe that's the motivation.
It also keeps them more relevant in the entertainment sphere, which is something that the conservative community has abandoned.
Well, they're we've talked about this. They're present, but they're not on traditional media like Netflix or any other place. They're on YouTube. That's where they're at.
Well, have you guys seen this kind of uptick in, especially right now, people campaigning for presidency? A lot of they're getting with like TikTokers and trying to do like old guys being like, we gotta get the younger generation, and we have to go on TikTok because that's wherever all the younger generation is.
I saw that Kennedy guy.
They're doing like
Tiger
cheesy
Belly
dances, and it's like, no, we don't want to see you do cheesy dances.
Look, that Kennedy guy who's running as an independent right now, he's on. He's been on Theo Vaughn, Tiger Belly this past week, right? Tim Dillon. I mean, it makes sense to go on Joe Rogan, but he's going everywhere. He's smart though. Like he's even if he doesn't get elected, which I don't think he will, he's smart because he's literally getting his message out and finding the people who actually are into what he's saying. Because for so long he was irrelevant because the media just labeled him as a vaccine denier kook. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now he's actually saying, these are all the things I've done. These are all the things I care about. And it's wild, man.
What I find interesting is I think you have to do more than just find the people that like your message. You have to be able to appeal to a lot of different people, and the ones who are successful are the ones that are appealing to majorities. So your majorities that are in cities, your young people, minorities, minorities as a group of people, making them a majority, and then just middle America or blue collar or old people. You've got to find out. You've got to appeal to those. You know, I think you have to do more than just like, oh, people who enjoy podcasts. Those are my people. You know. So,
and I think he's doing that. He's going everywhere. This guy Kennedy, but I'm just saying he's finding the crevices of my world. You know, I'm just waiting for him to show up on Neurotic.
That was a weird statement.
Why are you both just point out every
look? Just don't say things like that, okay?
Crevices of my world.
Stop saying it. Stop.
Joseph wants his world to be full of the crevices, and he wants everybody to get up in them.
Stop saying that, please.
Everybody lives in a crevice.
What crevice of the the strike stuff are we going to get to? Are we getting up in the crevices of the strike situation?
Look, speaking of the working class, the writers' strike has come to a close, and we're going to review. Man, this was an unfortunate video clip. Look at these two fellas back to back. Just not the greatest representation of
the writers. Yeah.
All right. So we want to go over the details.
What have these people experienced?
Of what the terms they came to are, okay? So like what they agreed to is in the realm of artificial intelligence and pay and stuff of that nature. Have you guys done any research on this yet?
I have not.
I haven't seen like what the terms are.
Okay.
So
I'm gonna warn you, they're a bit boring at times.
okay.
Okay.
But so I think when it came to artificial intelligence, they made zero ground.
Mm.
They just
So more
delayed the
strikes.
inevitable a little bit.
So we're gonna get a strike in like 2
So
years.
before we get to the artificial intelligence, we won't go over benefits and all that. That's just boring. We're just going to look at the pay that they wanted in the artificial intelligence bit. Okay. So writers who work on longer content that has a budget of 30 million or more and is made for streaming services, which is the big problem because they weren't getting paid when it went to streamers, right?
Yeah.
Will now receive 18% pay bump and a 26% increase in the base rate with which residuals payments are calculated. So basically, what they used to do for TV and movies, for like DVD sales, they're now kind of translating that into streaming. And
Okay.
honestly, what that's going to do is it's going to increase the contracts these streamers have to pay for these movies that they buy or that they fund. You know
what that means? Your price of your Netflix might go up again.
Well, it has to because you're not making as much money from streaming as you do theatrical releases and things. And and if the writers are like, we need more money from the streaming, the people making the movies aren't getting that much money from the streaming. So I mean, I do think as a writer you need the what you were owed before, what you would have made before if those shows and movies are going on streaming. I think that's good, but
it's like taxes when the base rises, the paying tax person, the normal man has to pay more in the end.
Yeah,
right?
the issue is that it's good that you're going to get what you're owed, but the companies aren't going to be making.
They're not eating that cost.
Yeah.
But they're also not eating that cost in the end. So they're just they're just going to keep inflating these prices until we're back to the same price as what cable TV was.
Yeah.
$300 a month for 100 channels or whatever it was, And like Spectrum did for so long and still has, but that's going to be the same cost of what we're doing for all these streaming things. We're just going back to an old model.
Yeah.
Payments are part of the flat deals for feature screenplays will also be sped up. So I guess there was delay in payment or something. Writers who work on multi-episode TV series will be paid more per week for their work, 5% more for staff writers and 3.5% to 4% more for some editors. And then this is an interesting one. The WGA says it secured an important concession on what it called success-based residual payments. This part makes sense to me because I actually thought like this is kind of an interesting thing that how you'd probably want to model a production company, period, right? If something works, you pay the people more. If streaming content hits a benchmark viewership, writers will receive a bonus according to the agreement salary. A successful project release on or after January 1st, 2024 would yield the writers $9,031 for a half-hour episode, $16,000 plus for 1 hour episode, as much as $40,000 for a streaming feature over $30 million budget under the terms of the 2023 agreement. So basically, it's like after January 1st of next year, anything that's on streaming, if it hits a benchmark of viewership, which means it considers a success, it's basically like residuals, except it's a bonus check of saying like, hey, this is a really successful thing. Like the people who wrote on Stranger Things probably didn't get a big bonus when it was super successful. You know what I mean? They're saying now if something like Stranger Things comes out and you worked on it and it really pops off and it's really successful, you get a bonus for working on it. That's basically what it is.
That's interesting because
that makes sense to me though. You should pay the people who created something that turns out to be really successful.
I have two thoughts with that. One is I think that's interesting because back in the day if you did like a movie, it was popular, and then they made a sequel, you could renegotiate your contract for like the second one to be like, hey, the first one was really popular. Let's get a little bit more money out of this type thing. And they can do that as the thing is coming out now because they have the actual views on it, which brings me to this, where I'm saying, are they going to have to start releasing a little bit more accurate numbers to how things are doing? I mean, maybe not to the public, but especially to like these unions.
Yeah, they will have to.
They will have to release some kind of number of being like
accurate numbers.
This is what Stranger Things season 4 actually got.
Yeah, and Disney especially is the one I usually fear of flubbing the numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can't do that anymore.
That's true. Getting to AI, basically in a nutshell, they basically agreed that for right now, and honestly, if there's big advancements in AI, this basically becomes void, right? Which there are going to be big advancements in like the next year in AI because it's moving at a crazy rate of speed. And so if there's any big advancements, this becomes void. But as of right now, like with ChatGPT and such, the writers can utilize it to help themselves. The studios cannot use it to basically void out a writer's position. Right.
Ew, I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that a writer could use it to.
Studios cannot.
Yeah, I don't like that a writer could use it to help write a script. Because they have no talent.
But that's literally what they're saying that they can do. I think there has to be some form of actual writing, but they are free to use it as assisting them to make their job. They say it's like progress in the field of writing, but really it's just getting AI to do your job, and then you like slightly edit it. And
but you know what? You know what? Maybe the writing will actually be good.
Better.
Well, I actually heard on Friday Night Tights that came out yesterday. I was listening to it, and they were like, "Freaking!" But they were doing this before the strike.
Yeah.
And all they were doing was they would get ChatGPT to write out stuff, and then they would change it to make it more woke, to like make it more socially progressive. So they just ruined what ChatGPT was spitting out for them, right?
Yeah.
So they are purposefully taking like what ChatGPT and then build on it to make it more woke. So, but basically this is just delaying the inevitable, because as soon as there's also, I think, a rule about how many writers actually have to be in the room, because they were saying certain writers were being overworked. And so they're saying like, we also, if you're on a certain type of show or movie, you have to have a certain amount of writers. And so that also like temporarily eliminates the ability for writers, for studios to say, all right, you can use AI to help write, but there's only going to be 2 of you. You know what I mean? That eliminates that for now, which is a smart move. But like I said, this is going to be a problem again in a year, because AI is not going to be the same as it is right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as things progress, they're always going to have to change things because things are progressing and things are changing. I mean, the way we view stuff on streaming services will change in 5 years. So there might not be a Paramount Plus in 5 years. They might have the Boomy, so it's all in one. So like as things progress, they're going to have to change things anyway. So
I love I want to quote you later. Just as things progress, they're going to have to change things as they progressed.
Okay, well, good choice of words. I'll give you that one.
Doubling up on that progress.
That progress. Look, there's not a ton here. It looks like for the time being, they got what they wanted. We'll see what the actor strike does. Honestly, I don't think it's going to be as exciting as the writer's strike was, just because there was more people involved, and the actors are actors. You know what I mean?
The actors are going to be like, all right, well, the writers got what they want, so let's we can be done.
We can be done.
We were
What did
just
you
doing
want?
this. We were
I
just
don't
doing
know.
this out of solidarity or something. We don't know.
The actors just get involved with nonsense just because they're like, oh yeah.
Yeah, well,
Stuff's going on in Hollywood.
they're like the writers want more money and we make the most money. They're like,
Let's act like we don't.
We need to strike too. Like we're unhappy.
I mean,
because they're literally saying they're going
to.
bunch. They are the most dramatic, but they're literally they're saying like the writers' strike is they're in the actors union. Is it SAG-AFTRA? Is that the actors?
Yeah.
Because the WGA is the writers.
Yeah.
So they're literally already in talks, and they're expecting that to be finalized within a week. So yeah, it's like the writers finish up what they were doing, and then the actors are like, "All right, let's get back to work." But so that's basically it. We'll see it what comes of the writers probably next week. Maybe we'll see how it plays out. But yeah, moving on. I wanted to, before we get to the last topic, that's actually really, really freaking cool. All right.
Okay, this better be cool.
I wanted to cushion it with something else.
So cool.
It's better be
so cool to me.
It it tops the coolest of cool.
It's so cool to me. All right. And maybe you guys already saw it, but I don't think you have because I think it came out a couple days ago.
Okay.
1 day ago. So I don't know if you guys are even aware of this yet.
Is it a script of some kind?
No.
Oh, I'm seeing an article.
I'm gonna cushion it with one thing I want to ask you guys. So I did see this news came out about the DC future universe stuff.
Okay.
And you know how James Gunn's trying to rebrand everything, recast people. There's been 3 characters that he's confirmed are staying in their current role, which basically means he's kind of keeping. Guess who they are?
Batman, Ben
Beetle.
Affleck.
Okay, you're right. Blue Beetle's one.
Ben Affleck is
No.
Batman.
No.
No.
You might not guess this. I'm just going to tell you.
Oh.
John Cena as Peacemaker.
Okay.
Viola Davis as that
Amanda
lady in
Waller.
charge. Yeah. So Blue Beetle, John Cena, and Viola Davis are all staying a part of the next generation of DC. So they're not recasting the boring ones. Well, the thing is that all of
anything about.
Look, we already know John Cena is he's a pandering hack to the woke culture and the money making culture with China
and the Chinese culture. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. He's pandering. He's a pandering hacky shill.
He's the
Viola
most
Davis is very woke. She knows how to act, which she's extremely woke and so she'll go along with whatever they want. And then the Mexican representation, who's kind of new on screen, so he'll probably just go along with whatever as well.
The next Karate Kid.
Did you say Mexican representation?
Yeah, who's new on screen?
What's his name?
Nobody knows.
He's from
and no one knows
Cobra
how to
Kai.
pronounce it either.
Yeah,
from Cobra Kai. People don't.
No one knows how to pronounce it. I'm telling you.
People know how to pronounce it. Oh my god! You're just uncultured.
It's not American. I don't know how to pronounce it.
I don't know how.
That's Josh most of the time.
Let me show you this and tell me if this makes freaking sense. How do you pronounce that name?
Zolo Maraduena.
No.
Yes, that is
Maraduena.
Maraduena. The UE is pronounced with a y sound.
Yeah.
And the N with the thing over it is a nya.
Don't question why it's culture.
I guess you do speak Spanish.
Yes.
Zolo Maraduena. Is that how Mexicans say Z with the X? Or is that like a popular new thing? Because I know, Elon Musk is into the X.
I would assume. That's my assumption.
Speaking of, I don't mean to go off topic, but have you guys seen the clip of Trump being like, Puerto Rico?
Puerto Rico?
Yeah, he's trying to say Puerto Rico, but he's like, Puerto Rico.
Yeah. He's like,
say it.
he says it. What he's saying, he goes, we welcome everybody from Puerto Rico. We love Puerto Rico. And we also love Puerto Rico.
Okay, but with that said of James Gunn holding on to a dying franchise that no one gives a crap about.
Yeah.
Do you think what's the point of him holding on to them three? You know what I mean? If he's trying to rebrand the whole thing.
Probably he's probably getting some instruction from the studios. That would be my main guess.
Why do they want it then?
Because Peacemaker, despite what we think, was popular amongst audiences.
Yeah, people enjoyed Peacemaker, but that doesn't mean that John Cena deserves it.
I got an idea.
But whether they deserve it or not isn't the point of issue. It's that people liked it and they want to keep kind of that element. I think he's sort of also kind of outside primary superhero stuff, so he hasn't really interacted with Batman or Superman or anything. And so it's an easy transition. Amanda Waller, go ahead, Josh. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, do you think these changes don't have anything to do with the changes that were made a couple weeks back with the Oscars and the exclusivity clauses that they've had for their stuff? I know.
I don't think so.
Oscars don't specifically determine what DC is going to be doing, but
to be fair, I don't expect
has to be
James Gunn
exclusive. He's okay, we need to keep our exclusive characters.
We get it. I don't think James Gunn is trying to make any DC movie an Oscar winner.
Oh, not for that, but for the exclusivityness of their
superheroes. I think they're keeping Viola Davis because representation, and
she's kind of like a Nick Fury character for DC.
Yeah, she's kind of like a Nick Fury character. And then I think they probably got some push from the studio to keep Zolo.
Because they don't want to just forget about Blue Beetle because they spent too much money on the movie.
Right. Yes.
They need to squeeze that sponge a little bit more before they drop it. Right. Yeah. It needs to make some money before they get rid of it. Let's move to the really interesting topic to me. Okay.
Wait.
A few weeks ago, we talked a little bit about Elden Ring, right?
Yes.
And a little bit about. By the way, when we talk about Elden Ring, it gets us views. I don't know why.
Sick. People like Elden Ring.
We're not talking about Elden Ring. But during that conversation, we talked about how the future of filmmaking can be in a virtual space. You know what I mean? Especially if you set up a game world and you customize everything, and then you can set the camera and the movements and the actors do certain things. Well, what I discovered last night played into it so hard that it expanded even what I was thinking of then to another level. So the very first virtual podcast has been recorded in the Metaverse.
Okay.
Face-to-face, but virtual. Face-to-face in the Metaverse by Lex Fridman and Mark Zuckerberg. Do you guys know who Lex Fridman is?
They sound like supervillains.
They do, but Lex Fridman, he's a professor. Yeah, he always wears the suit and tie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Superman's villain.
Yeah, and then
sure,
you guys know the lizard from, and then Mark Zuckerberg, the lizard from
from Spider-Man. Yeah,
look, so this is him doing his regular podcast intro, and then we'll show what's happening here.
Okay.
So I'm muting it. I just want to show you the video of it. He released this yesterday as of recording our podcast. So this is him doing his intro in a white space. That is not really him. And you can kind of tell.
Wow.
But that is not really
There's
him.
A little bit of uncanny valley, but it's not bad.
No, so they did hours long of 3D scanning his face and his body size. Yeah. And once they created the avatar, and they did the same for Mark Zuckerberg. Once they did that, they were able to give them the headset, place them in a void space. They chose a black void space because he usually does it on a straight black background, his podcast.
Yeah.
So all you really see is just the person and the microphone.
Can we see
But he always does he also does intros. Yes, I'm going to get to that. Oh, but first let me show you the screenshot, and then I'll show you the videos of them talking. Yeah. So basically how it works is, I forgot to put up that slide. So they wear the headset.
Mm-hmm.
The 3D scan is looking at his face and then translating it into the animated version of him in the metaverse. Okay.
Yeah.
So they are having a conversation across from each other in the same room in the metaverse, but they're across the nation and physically. You know what I mean?
It's a little wax figurey, but it really is.
Wait until you see how it looks as they're actually talking. All right.
Dang, Zuck looks more human.
And Zuckerberg actually said that this translates over video. Like this takes less bandwidth than a video call chat. Like what we're doing right now.
How long did it take to do all the scans at the beginning? Is the real
scans.
thing.
They actually talked about this on the podcast. They said the biggest challenge is to make this mainstream, but the technology is here now.
I mean, because look at the mapping in that middle picture there. It's really, really, really close. That means they got lots and lots and lots and lots of scans.
It's a multi-hour process to do this. So this is him doing the intro. All right. So this is them having their podcast where they're talking to each other.
Wow, that's not bad.
Not bad at all.
That is not bad at all. Look at how his mouth is moving.
Yeah,
I know. It's almost perfect.
If you did a podcast with like us, who are the same on every podcast, it would be easy because we could do the scans one time and then we could just do our podcast.
Yeah, except when you start growing out your facial hair, your hair, you have to do new scans. You know what I mean?
Oh, that is true. But
yeah,
if like Joe Rogan, who has a guest every couple of days, that would be difficult because
no, you wouldn't have to do that. You just tell the simulation. You just add facial hair to the simulation.
Okay, so this is like what this is. So they're sitting across from each other in this void space, and this is how they are seeing each other. They're just sitting across from each other.
You know what? That's kind of incredible.
Here's the thing. Look at how I'm sitting. All right. And like Lex Fridman, he said he was getting emotional. He's like a really big tech and science guy. So he kept going like this because he could see any direction. It's like he's in there. It's not a 2D or 3D like popping out at you image. It's you can look around him like you're in the room with him. You know what I mean?
You can't see his right ear from this video, but if you turn your head, you would be able to see.
Yeah, he was sitting across from him in a void space, like they're in the same room.
Paused right here. They look like people.
Yeah,
they look like people.
They're even.
It's only when they're talking to each other where you get a little bit of that uncanny valley. But look, you can even see his micro expressions.
Yeah, no, they talked about everything, and the thing is, like, literally, Lex Fridman refuses to do a virtual podcast because he said he doesn't like the connection that's lost there.
Yeah.
He said this is changing everything because he'll do virtual podcasts like this because this is as real as sitting in the same room with somebody.
Imagine when a scan like this becomes mainstream and you can take 10 minutes, scan your entire body and walk around in a virtual space. And you can add things. You can add, you can change your eyebrows or your nose, or you can give yourself a big old huge booty.
Right.
And I mean, you could do anything.
Well, here's the thing. In this podcast, I listened to the whole thing. Towards the end, Mark Zuckerberg is like saying, right now, especially for regular conversations or meetings or someone, people prefer this. He said, but in the gaming world, people prefer avatars. You know what I mean? You can do whatever you want. You can do it as yourself. You can do it as yourself modified. You can do it as an avatar. The metaverse is open to any possibility. And I think this just kind of like positions the metaverse into the new world that we're going to be moving into. It's not just AI. It's also, what is this Ready Player One universe that we're building? You know what
does it look like?
And so this brought into my mind for us, not only with podcasts, because that's something we do week after week, but also it brought into my mind, like, how we know how you can like create an ultra realistic movie scene and customize it to make your own film in a gaming space. But how are films going to be made in the metaverse? It's like the same way, but you could even people like, did you guys see that Black Mirror episode with that girl from Schitt's Creek who has like the blonde highlights? So that You probably saw it advertised though, like the Black Mirror episode with the girl with blonde highlights. She kind of looked like Harley Quinn. She had a mugshot. It was advertised to a lot of people. That episode is entirely based on AI creating shows from people's likenesses, and you contract yourself out to as an actor to have your likeness used by AI to create a story. That's what the metaverse is going to do. You scan yourself, and then you can Johnny Depp can be there.
Hasn't Bruce Willis already done this?
I think he might
Look this
have
up if you can,
for like deep faking.
I'm almost positive Bruce Willis, when he said he was not going to be acting anymore, he sold his likeness to like a specific company that was outside the United States to make films based off his likeness. I think this was a thing that happened like a year ago.
Fact check. No, Bruce Willis did not sell his likeness to deepfake company. That was
someone did though.
That was a rumor. But basically, so like say this. So I don't know. Who's really busy? Margot Robbie's a super busy actor right now, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants her. So imagine she says this, look, I can't be on set with you, but if you are filming this in the meta space, I can go ahead and put on my headset. I'll set up one of the rooms in my house, and like in the evenings from, I don't know, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m., I can act my scenes. Right?
Yeah.
And you'll be able to get my likeness. You'll be able to get my movements of my body, and I'll just go ahead and do the scenes, and then you can just use that. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, yeah. And the thing is, you would have to,
and they can be, she could be,
your likeness would have to be under contract as well. It's like, or you could even be like, you have my likeness, for, you have my likeness for 5 hours today. Somebody else can be able to act out all my scenes, voice lines, movement, everything, but it will look and sound like Margot Robbie.
But even she does. Even before that, like what we can do right now with this technology, make a movie in the meta space that's almost perfect, especially when there's movement, when they're talking. Like looking at this is almost perfect. You know what I mean? So imagine
it's far from perfect, but it's a big step in the right direction.
It is.
I think if you're actually in the meta space with them, I think it's
would
more
feel
real.
It would feel so real.
I think eventually though there will be kind of this romantic thing, because we've done this with vinyl, we've done this with old technology a lot, where there will be when things kind of progress in that state that we kind of romanticize the face-to-faceness and the realness of actually video. And I think there will be a small thing that just holds on for a little bit though.
Well, so that's literally one of the topics they talked about here is the face-to-face versus like simulated face-to-face. They said like, so Lex Fridman, he said this is like, so he has family in the Ukraine, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's American, but he wasn't born in America. And I think he has dual citizenship in Russia and Ukraine, which is an interesting thing for him right now. And he was getting emotional because he said, I'm going to be able to use this technology to talk to family I haven't talked for in decades. And it's going to feel like I'm in the same room as them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so this is like, what do you do when face-to-face is just as real? Like the only difference is you can't walk up and hug them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you can still sit next to them and talk to them face-to-face and feel like you are just face-to-face, right? Just like this.
I think it's the same kind of advancement that we started to see with phones. It was like at one point, you could not talk to somebody unless you were near them.
Mm-hmm.
Then you could talk to people all the way across the country or across the world.
Right.
Then you could see them on your computer, and now you can see them on your phone. Anywhere you want, you can see this person.
Email was wild because you can send a message to anybody in the world. Now you can send a text to anybody in the world, or video call,
or a video call. You can FaceTime somebody right now, or Facebook Messenger. Pull up a video on most apps. You can do it on Instagram. You can do it on
WhatsApp,
Facebook,
which is popular overseas.
WhatsApp. You could do it on basically anything and pull up a video of somebody and talk to them almost anywhere with internet or service.
So this is the next version of that.
Yeah,
this is being in the same room as anybody in the world.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All you got to do is put on a headset and make sure you got your scans in, right?
Yeah.
And this is
interesting.
This is so crazy to me because it not only revolutionizes the social side, which I know that's always been Mark's focus, is data collection and social, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is making money off of people's data and getting people to interact socially online. But now it's going to literally cross into the entertainment world in a way that's like, you don't even have to be on set to be an actor anymore. You can be a great actor and literally film your entire career can be in the meta world, the meta space. Dude, and all your acting is at home. You know,
imagine
what I mean?
when this technology is the new Facebook and we're all walking around in a virtual world, talking to each other, playing games, doing all this stuff while, all the old people are standing in a black room, talking, standing in a black room in a circle,
be like
talking to each other.
We couldn't figure out how to add walls.
Yeah. Well, the big virtual hub world is a little bit much for them.
Right. It's too much to take in. So they're like, we like black spaces and seeing our friends.
Yeah.
I hate to say it though, that might be kind of in a way us, because technology is going to progress and we're going to get old and we're going to be the old people.
Mm-hmm. Like Lex Fridman used to do this in the black space. That's good enough for me.
Definitely, maybe not me and Wyatt, but definitely Joseph, because he's Grandpa Joe and everything.
Joe.
Freaking, I see this and I think about how we can make awesome movies and utilize the technology. You guys just sit back and be like, yeah, this is pretty cool. You weren't even on top of this. Like, you didn't even know that it was happening. I'm in the world. I'm in the space.
He's out there.
I'm out here. I'm out here. I knew about the volume way before either of you guys did.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm on top of this stuff.
Getting granular with it.
Right. What does that word even mean, actually?
Taking a little bit of time.
Said it.
I feel like it meant I thought what you were saying when you said get granular with it was, pick out some pieces of information.
Yeah.
Hold on. Is that actually what I wrote?
Yeah, I thought you were saying get a little bit familiar.
Granular.
You say granular.
What does the word granular mean?
Like grains of things.
Okay,
like
resembling or consisting of small grains or particles.
Yes, small bits. I thought you were saying gather some small bits and things of this, and a little bit familiar is what I thought it was. Get granular.
Characterized by a high level of granularity.
Yeah.
Late 18th century form, late Latin granulum. What? Okay. So the real meaning is powdery, powdered, grainy, gritty, sandy. And I'm like, get granular. Get yourself a little flake, a couple flakes
little
of this.
bit. Yeah, just a little familiar.
Okay. I love the English language, how we can describe things. Yeah, that's all I have. I think it was I think that not only with AI, the writers are going to be out of business for sure in a couple years, but it doesn't matter how hard they strike. But also, filmmaking is going to be upended. So we're kind of like, what's the best digital camera, not digitally filming camera? What's the best camera that the metaverse has that you can select, or you have to go collect points in a game to be able to buy the best digital ARRI camera for my digital movie? You know what I mean? or my Metaverse movie.
I'm out here trying to be a filmmaker, but in order to film movies, I have to win first place on Mad Max Fury Road.
In order to be able to have a floating camera that has like certain specs that I want, I gotta go race Bowser.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I'm getting that camera throws a blue shell.
Right.
Best believe.
That's those stakes are a lot higher than just ruining friendships.
You're just out here, you're like cracking your neck. You're like, all right, I'm in Smash Brothers now. I'm winning this thing.
Right.
Street Fighter.
Man, I don't even know what to expect. I do foresee already so many people work virtually. I'm in my very first virtual working position, but already this technology is going to throw so many more people into the working virtual space. Yeah. So many more people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you can literally show up to meetings, most people's jobs, like 50% of most people's jobs are having meetings to make decisions about stuff. You know what I mean? And then a little bit of tasks that those people have to do, because jobs are nonsense these days with how much technology helps us with stuff. Really, most people's jobs are having meetings to implement strategy. You know what I mean? And the tech does the strategy, implements it for us. So a little bit of tasks, a lot of meetings. If that's the case, this is going to let you sit in a room with anybody at any point. You know what I mean? So how many more people are going to be working remotely or working from home or working from their chosen office space? You know, it's going to change. The world's changing so fast, but this is going to change so much more of it, because this is literally creating a virtual world that just rides next to the real one, you know?
Yeah.
Wild, man. And people just pop in and out of it. Already, I feel like I have 2 screens, right, that I do all my work off of and talk to you guys and have all my meetings at work off of. I feel like these are already windows into my social life. Like if I want to be social, I have to come to my window and peer through the window so I can hang out with friends. You know what I mean? It's terrible.
Well,
I have windows to look through.
In a different state from somebody.
Right. I have windows to look through. I'm already in a virtual space, but it's different. My transmitting speed is slower. Anywho, I'm ready to go all in. Ready to get the headset, ready to get the chip implanted in my hand, all kinds of things.
Maybe not that. Maybe
a little far.
Maybe not the chip. Definitely not what Elon Musk is doing. I'm definitely not getting no implant in my brain. That's wild. I'd rather operate on a slower system.
I don't need to interface with everything.
I don't need to interface. I'm happy with the way my brain is right now. So yeah, that's all I have. Thank you guys for being. I hope this was fun. Did you guys find it fun?
Yeah, this was good.
No, was that last topic as cool as you thought it might be?
No, it really is cool.
It's interesting. I think they've made some strides, but I think for like the average Wiseworks podcast, it's going to take a second for us to be able to do that because we can't get scans and stuff. But it's interesting to look at and see how they're progressing.
I think we definitely. I know we've talked about this in the past, but I think it would be smart to start really thinking about how podcasting and hanging out with personalities you enjoy is going to look like for VR. And we've already thought about having like a VR space where we put a headset on and people can hang out with us in a podcast studio virtually. Yeah. Just getting like a 360 camera and recording on it. But there's also other cameras where you can have like multi-cameras next to each other. So if people are in a VR space, they can like kind of do this and kind of see, like look around and see a little bit. And then you have the meta space, which is like if you do scans, you can get up and walk around the room if we scanned ourselves, you know what I mean? So I don't know. There's a lot of aspects to this that are definitely going to affect not only films, but even our podcasting into the future.
Wouldn't that be cool if you could put your podcast, your set was essentially a room, but like almost like a amphitheater where you've got chairs that go up, and people can just virtually walk in and sit down and just enjoy
they already
the
have
podcast.
that. They already have that in the meta world, the meta space. It's already happening, I think. And it's a whole universe in meta in the meta space. People are literally using real world money and buying real estate in the meta space already.
That's wild.
And so and that's popular. I mean, Snoop Dogg owns a ton of meta space real estate already. A lot of people do because it's cheap and it's going to be used. Because it's cheap
and when the servers are open and when things are happening and
when everyone's on it, because everyone's not on it yet.
When everybody's on it, you're going to sell that meta real estate and make some bank.
But dude, that's not even that. Like, so what you're talking about with going into an amphitheater and watching it, you could do that, but I think a lot of people would rather walk into our studio and sit down at the desk and listen to us hang out, in the meta space. I think they'd rather, and you don't have to show everyone else in the room. You can literally just like say, just show us three.
You could have options. You could have, like several different options where you like flip through. There's one where there's an empty seat where you can pull up your seat and join and enjoy the conversation. And then you could flip to one where it's an amphitheater where you can see a bunch of the other people who are watching, or you can flip to one where it's an empty amphitheater and you and your friends can come in and watch.
Right. Mm-hmm. And they already have the technology that is 3D space without a headset.
Yeah.
But you can only do it for one person because like on a screen. So you could even, if you don't want to enter into the world, you can sit on a screen but still like look around like you're in the room.
Yeah.
And it be multi-dimensional 3D because they have like eye tracking computers that allow you to see the world in a 3D like depth and looking around things space because it tracks where your eye's looking, but it doesn't work if two people are looking at it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Or you could, because the room is scanned so well, you could flip to the one where, 50 people join in. It's a battle royale.
Right.
And we're hunting each other. They're hunting each other as like people about this big running through our set, jumping on top of us while we're talking.
Right. Battle
we're just
royale.
We're talking and they're climbing around.
Podcast.
They're running up the things, shooting at each other.
And every so often we just kind of.
We can't even see them.
Oh, it just happens. So like their map is Wiseworks podcast.
It's a
time
pre-recorded.
Code 360.
Yeah, it's a
3 minutes 60
Their
seconds.
map is a pre-recorded hour-and-a-half long podcast where we're just talking and moving.
Right,
and they're just running around the
35.
set. Yeah. Episode 35.
That was just probably me and Joshua. That's a bad map.
Yeah,
we got to
do. That's a bad map.
We got to do a different map. Yeah, we got to have. Oh, I definitely would want the map. If we're this big, I'd want the map where you have your poofy hair to hide in. Imagine that's a whole battleground in itself.
Yep.
That's a little jungle area. Anyway, that's crazy. This is reality, dude. This is not even fake. This is going to happen.
No, yeah.